Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fresno Greeks podcast. I'm your host, Aiden Ganagarlobo, and I'm here with a pair of Gamma Alpha Omegas today. Ladies, would you like to say a little bit about yourselves?
You first. Okay. Well, hi, I'm Lucero. I'm a Spanish major here at State, and I crossed with Gamma 4 years ago in the spring of 19. So a little bit about myself. Like I said, I'm a Spanish major, so I want to go into education, preferably high school teacher. I want to be like a mentor to the youth, which is like also kind of like falls into what our vision is and the org, be mentors to those like younger than us or like other women as well. So
I love that. Well, hi, my name is Jenny. I am a psychology major with a minor in deaf studies. Trying to get a minor in deaf studies. My end goal for that is to, like the very, very end goal is to eventually become a board certified behavior analyst. So after this, I am going to try to pursue a master's in ABA to hopefully, get one step closer to eventually becoming a BCBA. What I want to do with that, I still am kind of debating whether if I want to work at a school or more clinic-based. That is to be determined. But yeah, that is my end goal. And I also cross Spring 19. She's actually my line sister.
Very nice.
But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So, as line sisters, coming in across spring of 19, what were some of the stigmas you had about Greek life coming into college and kind of coming in into the semester you rushed in?
do you want to start?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Well, before kind of joining Greek life, I had that stereotypical stigma of like, what a sorority is and what a fraternity is. I didn't know there was multiple councils, which honestly was pretty amazing when I did discover that there was multiple councils, because that's when I actually, felt a little bit more included and more welcomed, not only with like my sorority, but with multiple organizations. They were just all so welcoming, and they didn't fit that stereotype that a lot of people categorized fraternities and sororities, which was, a pretty great and good deal for me, just because I didn't really want that reputation of like what the movies portray, because sometimes what the movies portray it's not necessarily good.
For me, honestly, that was like the only thing I had in mind, I guess, about Greek life. It was like the movie type of, I don't know much either. I don't know like nothing about it until like it was probably like a year prior to me like joining Gamma that I started kind of like looking around to possibly like join something else, because I wanted to do something else and just like come to school, do schoolwork, go to work. That was my thing in high school. I started working pretty young, so I never got to really do any extracurriculars or like nothing like that. So I knew I wanted something different out of college and a different experience. So that's kind of when I started like looking a little bit into it. Even then, like I still didn't know there was like multiple councils or like different like multicultural, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until like I actually started my process and like trying to like learn more about Gamma Alpha Omega that I really like, it's a different way than what you usually think of, and a lot of girls that probably like when we're tabling and they approach us and stuff, that's the perspective they have. Oh, it's like the movies, or it's this, and no, like at least our organization, I can talk obviously for it. It's more like we want to be out there in the community. We want to do stuff for our community. Education, basically, that's what we're here for. So it's a total different perspective than what we're used to be honest. So
yeah, I understand that. And so what was your initial attraction? I feel like a lot of the people we've had out so far were people that rushed in the fall. As people that rushed in the spring, what was it, as obviously you had already had a semester into Fresno State, what was it that caught your eye about Gamma Alpha Omega specifically? Do you remember those first interactions with the sisters back then?
Yeah. Do you want to go first? Or?
I already knew some of the girls, like from previous classes and stuff, like quite a like at least 3, I believe. and they had just crossed. So like I was like, oh, like, you know, that looks fun. Like they were pretty cool. So like I'm like I want to see, like, learn a little bit more about it, you know. So that kind of like pulled me into Gamma, because other than that I don't know like much about any of the other ones. I did go to a couple socials, but out here, like, I just felt really comfortable. It was like a small group of girls, but it was like perfect for you to feel comfortable and feel at home. So.
Well, for me, it was, I knew what I was doing, but I also had no clue on what I was doing. But there was actually like two people, one who was an actual sister of Gamma, and then the other one, he was in a fraternity. And I remember they had a joint social, and it was a bachata night kind of thing, and the sorority, my sorority sister, who, you know, her name is Shirley, she was the one hosting that social that day. And, you know, like, I've always been intrigued in bachata dancing and stuff like that, and so she was very, like, she knew what she was doing. And so I don't know, that day I remember I felt so like welcome and included, not only by, like, obviously, you know, our sorority, but I also felt included by the fraternity as well. And later that night, one of the members who actually ended up becoming my friend, he approached me and he was like, oh, so are you gonna join Gamma? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, I feel like I'm shy and, like, you know, I'm super quiet and I don't know, maybe it's not for me. And he was like, no, you should. And he started like hyping it up for me, and which I am like really grateful for, because now he's passed away. But I'm really grateful because he also gave me that nudge to like do it. And, you know, he had a good reason. Like, there was no excuse for me to not do it, because the sisters made me feel so comfortable and so welcoming. They didn't judge me for who I was, and they didn't judge me for being initially very quiet. They actually like pushed me to come out of my shell.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty great. So you spoke about it a little bit, but finding that multicultural kind of aspect to it, finding that it was a different kind of vibe, do you think that that helped you in your decision to rush? Do you think that not really being the stereotypical sorority, do you think that was a bigger draw to you?
For me, probably. Because honestly, like, the first interaction I actually had with some Greek life was my first semester, when some girls from Panhellenic sorority approached me and my friends. We were like at this, they do like for incoming freshmen, like a little thing, you know. So we were right there, and like they approached us with a flyer and stuff. But like I looked at it and I remember I'm just like, nah, like, you know, that's not for me at all. Like, and I've heard so many things like, oh, well, they have to like really like you, or they have to, like, you know, like all this kind of stuff. So that was like mostly in my head, and like that was kind of scary at first. The first interaction, it was kind of scary. And especially not knowing like much about like any other organization. So, but I mean, having known there's like multiple ones, I think it really like kind of dragged me a little bit more and like made me want to try it. So.
Yeah, I knew about the council, and I also thought they were the only ones. So when I stumbled upon a multicultural council, it was completely by accident. I don't remember exactly how, but I ended up at Grand Tour, and that's when like I realized like, whoa, like there was multiple organizations and it was a completely different council. And I think it definitely had a lot to do with like my decision, because I wanted to feel included, but I also wanted to stick to like my roots and like practice my culture a little bit more. I wanted to be a part of a community who understood where I was coming from, and like as a first generation like Latina, it's hard finding those people, and once you do find those people, they make your college experience so much easier.
No, I get that. So yeah, and then both you ladies had the opportunity to have a full semester of being in Greek life before COVID hit to this semester. I'm someone that crossed during COVID, fall 20. So how, it's kind of a harder question, but how have you seen Greek life change from your time before COVID hit to your time after? Obviously, a lot of the other sorority members I've asked have said that it has changed, but it's coming back and it's settling in again. Once again, but they said there was a big hit. Have you seen it change throughout COVID and when it initially hit?
Yeah, I feel like it hit and we gradually didn't really notice at one point it all started slowly changing. I feel like the way a lot of social events, with COVID, obviously a lot of things come along with like anxiety and all that stuff. And you did notice that prior it was a lot of socials, a lot of people interacting with other people, Greek events, Greek unity nights and stuff like that. And when COVID hit, obviously we couldn't do that stuff. We were limited, there was restrictions. So a lot of social communications kind of like slowly started fading out. And it was, expected because we were all practicing to stay safe with and kind of adjust with what was going on. So like now you're starting to see we're slowly trying to build that up and kind of go back to kind of like how we were, which is being more interactive with one another, creating more socials, trying to build that Greek unity once again. Just because I feel like during COVID it was kind of difficult to do that as well, just because meeting via Zoom is not really the same as meeting in person. So it honestly is so much better because now it's easier to kind of put names to faces, talk about our different experiences within like when it was COVID and when it was outside of COVID. But yeah, I'm very appreciative that we're leaving that Zoom era because it was a challenging time. Yeah,
and like going back on like her saying like putting names to faces, that's a big part too, because like yourself, like you crossed during COVID, so probably you didn't get to know a lot of us or a lot of other people from other orgs, and same with us. Like one of our newest members, like they don't really know many of the people from other orgs, and that's understandable because like we didn't have that social like interaction as much as like now it's like getting back to normal. So I'm pretty sure like we're for the most part back to normal, so it's like we have to be out there again, like trying to like she said, build that Greek unity and like interact with each other, introduce our new members to each other, so that can like keep going for the future lines and all that stuff. So
and so although obviously a big chunk of your time at Gamma Alpha Omega was spent during COVID, how do you think you've developed in terms of, you came in spring 19, you're now 4 years in of being active and everything. How do you think you've developed personally through the sorority?
I think for me, for sure, like Gamma has helped me like, kind of like get out of my shell. Like I'm a really like, like to myself type of person. So being in Gamma, it really helps you. Like that's one of our goals, you be out there, like get out of that comfort zone. And I'm pretty sure for most organizations, that's our goals, for our members to really push them and make them better leaders, better, like future educators or whatever it is that they're trying to go into. You're always going to have to be in front of someone speaking or in front of like, So I think that's one of the main things that Gamma has helped me with, like be a little bit more comfortable with myself. Doesn't mean I don't get nervous. No, of course we all do, But I think I've improved a lot in that aspect of myself. So
for me, it was, I would say like starting to practice more things to kind of prioritize my mental health. With Gamma, I know we try to at least prioritize mental health in general, just because we know how overwhelming school can get. But when the pandemic hit, that was a whole nother sort of like, I guess, stressor for some people. And so it was good to have that reminder from like my sisters in the organization itself that, we had connections, we had sources, we weren't alone. And we had that support system, not only for like our mental health, but also for like our academics. And I know that was something that in the beginning, it was quite weird transitioning to just all online and trying to figure out everything. Especially like if you're not one to like be caught up on technology, it can get really difficult really fast. So being able to just have that support system, having those connections really made it easier to not feel so alone in a time where we were all kind of isolated, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, so going back to when you ladies originally crossed and became full-fledged members, do you remember, obviously you were drawn to your sorority through recruiting and everything, and then a common occurrence that happens is that the first people you bond with in any organization are your line siblings, obviously your 2 line siblings, so you would have bonded first. But when did you start to feel, after becoming full-fledged members, when did you start to feel the sisterhood at large and realize that it's bigger than just here, like it's a real sisterhood?
I think honestly, from the very first moment, the very first social that I that I went to, like I mentioned, it was like a smaller group of girls. So it was easier to like kind of like put a face and a name to every single girl, and like that kind of started like giving me that feeling of like, oh, like kind of like, oh, I know you guys, you know, like it's like we're in this together, like I feel welcome. And then obviously later on it went to like, oh, like my line sisters, you know. We were specifically like a pretty close one, since we had one of our sisters is deaf, so that kind of like got us also like to bond a little bit better, because we were all trying, you know, like to learn how to communicate with her like to the best of our abilities, you know, like it was a whole different experience, obviously trying to learn sign and trying to like go through this whole thing together. So I think that really like we can both relate to that a lot. Obviously we went through it. That kind of made us like our bond to grow stronger. So
Yeah, I'm like trying to remember. It's so long ago. I think for me, it's honestly the same thing, but I want to say the thing that really like impacted me like the most was that same year that I crossed, that summer. I actually, my dad ended up passing away, and I really felt the sisterhood when they were there to not only like help me grieve, but you know, they accompanied me in like the hardest time in my life. And that's when like I saw like, oh, these are the girls that are always going to be there for me no matter what happens. And I felt that sisterhood a lot deeper than I had originally. And then and there I was like, I am so grateful that I did this, because I can't imagine how difficult it would have been just going through it alone. But they were there for me no matter what, and just being present there, and like also helping me through either fundraising for the expenses and all that. It was just very impactful for me, and I'm never gonna forget that. I feel like that has to be a core memory for me, on like when I realized like, yeah, this is it. This is my family.
Oh, that's great. So and now, having spent a lot of time in Gamma Alpha Omega and crossing lines and getting new members into the organization, how has that been? And you talked a little bit about your personal development, but how has it been assisting other sisters and your sisters that came after you in developing in their own way?
Like helping them grow, or like
So like you just seeing them, like when you first meet them as interest, seeing them come in, do the process, become full members, like how has it been doing that multiple times at this point?
I think it's amazing, because for once I love my organization, I love my letters, you know, and then talking to other people about my org and other girls, you know, future interests and stuff, it's really like, it's something that passions me, you know. So seeing the growth from them, from like when they're first like, you know, like all shy, coming up to you like when you're tabling or things like that, to see them fully like go through the process and then becoming a sister, like I think there's nothing better than that, you know, like seeing the love for Gamma in them like growing, just like it grows in me too. I think that's one of the most amazing things I could, you know, say I have experience within the organization, like seeing like them becoming like that Gamma, that like, you know, having that love for the org too, just like we all do whenever we get those letters, you know. So.
I think, well, First off, I am so proud of all the sisters that I've seen from like the day they were like just an interest to the day, you know, they began the initial process to the day they became an actual sister. I'm very proud of them. I've seen tremendously how much they've grown, not only within the organization, but like outside. And I'm grateful that, you know, I got to experience that and like see that amount of growth. They've truly brought so much diversity into our organization as well, not only with like the different cultures and, you know, it's more of like these women are, they're literally, they are the true definition of a Gamma woman. They're so inclusive, they're so welcoming, they are very determined, and I am only happy to see that this organization has helped them, you know, really just bring out the best of them. Like, they are shining stars. But yeah, I can go on talking about them, just naming lists. But yeah, they've honestly, yeah, and I give props to the COVID lines out there. I give you guys props because I can only imagine how difficult it was for you guys, and you guys have all shown up and, you know, shown out. Like, you guys have really represented all of your guys' organization. I'm not even speaking for only mine, but all of you guys have really, you know, exceeded that, and I'm proud of you guys too. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds pretty great. So, obviously, you've been a sister for quite a while. So, what are some of your favorite experiences you've had with your sisters throughout these years? I know it's a hard question because there's quite a bit. But
I'm like, there's like every time I get this question asked, I'm like, oh, man,
it's hard to pick out.
There's so many, you know, like, but I can for sure say one of the most recent ones. I guess I'll go with that. We have an annual founding ball, and it was in Phoenix this year.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so in our Alpha chapter. So this year I got to experience all that. I got to see like all like sisters from every chapter, you know, like be united right there, celebrating like our 30 years this year. But the main thing that really stood out to me, it was like meeting my founders. That was like, I was like starstruck right there. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, you know, like I was like seeing them like in person, the women that like created this organization, because of them, like because of their hard work, we're all here today. We have like, you know, all these chapters all over the US. So it's like, it was really amazing. And especially having them like on Facebook, social media, all this stuff. But now you've seen them in person, and like I couldn't like thank them enough, you know, like when I went up to them, talked to them, I was like, thank you guys, you know, for your hard work. Because of them, we're here and we're celebrating 30 years of this amazing organization. So
let's see. I think, well, one of, I'll take, since you did most recent, I'll do a little bit more back then. But I think one of my like favorite memories so far is just all of us like attending like the sisters like graduations. To me that's very a special moment, I feel like, because we all come here with the goal, and which is to graduate, and we know college is not the easiest sometimes, you know, life happens. So being able to just be present for a sister is very rewarding, not only for them but like for us too, because we get to see like, yes, you've made it, you made your goal, now you know you're growing. And I remember for my other line sister's graduation, her name is Alondra, we all went and, you know, we chanted for her, and just like seeing how genuinely happy she was to see us show up there for her graduation. You can see in her face that she really wanted us present, and that was a reward in itself. But, you know, we also got to see her get her BA, and now she finally got her MA. So we've seen her progress, and honestly, like, that's super amazing to me, forever going to be one of my favorite memories. That, you know, we are trying to obviously continue doing, because showing up to special and big events are very important, especially when it comes to someone that, you know, we consider our family.
I understand. That's pretty great. So, for Lucero yourself, recently you had spoken about kind of Greek unity and the council starting to interact more, stuff like that, and now you have been crowned as this year's Miss BG for Beta Gamma Nu. How was that experience, and how does that work, or how was your experience doing that and winning that event?
See, up to this day, I still kind of feel like it didn't happen.
No.
Like, I'm still like kind of like, surprised it did. Especially because of like how I'm not like a person that really like, that's not in my comfort zone, let's put it that way, right?
That, yeah.
So that was a really big thing for me to like go out there and do that, especially I went in like 2 weeks late for reasons we had. So it was like I was a little bit like behind than everyone else, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I have to learn this stuff. I have to like, I did a poem for my talent, and it was pretty, it was a good experience, but it was stressful. And I think when they call out my name, if you see the video, it's like you can see that I didn't move at all. Like I was like, in my head I was like, wait, did they really just say my name? And like it wasn't until like I was like in a little bubble, and it wasn't until like my boyfriend was the first one to like run up to me, like hug me, and like everyone just started coming over, and like that's when it hit in my head, I'm like, oh shoot, I really did like just win this, like. And I think that's like that's a really proud moment for me. And that's one of the highlights of my college career as well, because like you can show like girls like younger girls, like you can do anything you set your mind to, like be that a temple out there, and even if it's not within your comfort zone, like you can still do it. Everything's like doable. And there's this one thing that my mom always says, it's like a little saying in Spanish, but she tells me like, when something's for you, like even if you like move away, it's still gonna be for you. If something's not for you, even if you're there like strong, whatever, it's not gonna be for you, So I really do believe in like timing and like the right moment. So it's
That's great. Yeah. And so for the final question here, as we're reaching the time, what would be your advice to someone that's on the fence about joining Greek life, like listening to this podcast, deciding whether or not to rush an org? What would be your advice to that person?
My advice would just be, honestly, trust your gut, trust your intuition. If you feel comfortable, if you feel welcomed, why not? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You don't go through with it, or you decide to stop midway. I'd say college is like, for a while, we're here for a limited amount of time. Why not do something fun while you're here? And Greek life isn't necessarily only about, just participating in your own fraternity or sorority. It's about getting involved with your community, helping others, not only through community service, but like volunteering with other organizations, doing fundraisers. There's a lot more behind the scenes once you're in it than what we put up on front when we're trying to like table, or what you see in movies, or what you see through other people's perspectives. So my advice is just do it. Find your support system. Talk, if there's something that's like stopping you from doing it, talk to someone about it. Maybe sometimes talking things out loud can help you come to like a better decision than just kind of overthinking it yourself. Just because sometimes we tend to go on a little rampage on just overthinking things. But yeah, that was literally my advice. Just do it.
Yeah, well, same. Like, I think there's nothing you can lose, and a lot that you can gain. Like me personally, I've made like really good friends with like people, obviously not only with my sisters, but also like with people in other orgs. I've met a lot of people, and you start building those friendships with like within each other, So like you're always going to have a support system with your sisters, with your org, or with other people too, because we're all in this thing together, Right. College is already hard enough, and it doesn't have to be all serious. Like obviously we're here for a reason, we're here to get a degree, but you can have fun at it, Like sometimes being too serious, it can just stress you out even more. Well, having a little fun, having like this other thing on the side, or that support system, it will really help you like navigate through college.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, thank you, ladies. I'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Gotcha.
you.